Hello and welcome everybody to Man's Model Moments Midweek Model Meet. I am horribly underprepared for this because I literally stepped through the door 15 minutes ago or so after a couple of hours drive. So apologies if I'm a bit discombobulated. I see we have quite a lot in tonight already. David Markey, Sato Models, not seen you before, welcome. Julian Hall, G&A Scale Model Apprentice, Steve T, all the regulars, it's good to see. Mark Stark, Michael Myers, Gremlins Modeling Mayhem. We have Graham Coxon, Stuart, John Farrant, Ivan, Chef 888. Mark Sixsmith, greetings from Prague, nice city. We have Rob, welcome. Pavel, hello there. And George Davis, John Alec, welcome. Andy, I think I got that right. And I think that brings us up to the present. So apologies if I missed anybody. So let's bring on first of tonight's guest. It's Gary from Gary Stuff. Gary, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm kind of still. Part of me is still driving.
Love the neon sign on there, man. Got to get me something like that.
Yeah, well, when I relocated here, I've had it for a while. I used to have it in the man cave.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really anywhere to put it. Whereas here, I can hang it nicely.
Oh, brilliant! Looks really good.
I don't know, from some cast iron hook that I don't know. The house is pretty old. God knows, it was probably used for hanging like bits of meat and stuff back in the 17th century or something. But
lovely.
Now it's got it's not really neon, it's LED, but yeah, neon sign.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's really good.
So how have you been keeping? What have you been up to?
I've been keeping fine. My other half unfortunately has COVID, so that makes interesting at the moment. But you know, in good company with Joe Biden and all that. So you know, there we go. Yeah, just been up to the usual sort of things, really. Opening boxes and making very slow progress on my kits. My B26 is slowly coming together. I'm glad to say, my ICM one. Been working on the crew figures today as well that come in the US Air Force crew figures. So I've been gluing those up. I'm going to be spraying those because the whole thing's going to be part of like a little diorama type thing on a nice little base. But
ICM does really nice figures.
Yeah. And you know what? The odd thing was, I was looking at my analytics today, you know, and anyone on here who has anything to do with YouTube knows that you spend an awful lot of time looking at your analytics and going,
too long, probably.
I was looking the most viewed actual regular video of mine for the whole year was that set of 1915 infantry from the Dardanelles campaign that they released a month and a half ago. Just the box review of it.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's gone really well. So yeah, their figures are beautiful, really nicely molded, really easy to paint to a reasonable standard as well, which I like. They're very paintable, I suppose. Yeah.
It's a very different skill, sculpting a figure than making an aircraft or an AFV or something. And they've got a really talented. I don't know if it's one designer or multiple designers doing it, because the poses they're really sort of natural, and they do really varied poses. I love them. I think they're great.
I think they use some sculptors to do them, so they're digital sculpting. I think that's a reason why Airfix are so loath to actually put any figures in, is that they don't have the resources in house to do new figures to fit each model, because we got things like the scale thickness of the walls that get in the way, and all the all the other reasons that they give. And the reasons they say, well, we haven't put the figures in there, is because we don't have figure designers, because the software is so radically different to the CAD software we use to make the kits. But the investment ICM have made is obviously paying off, because they're beautiful. Because
the have you built the Gannet, the Airfix Gannet?
That's a bit of a sore subject. Yes,
oh.
I'm just over halfway through the Gannet. I was halfway through the Gannet in about November.
I see.
And it's sat in a box ever since. It's just waiting for me to get my act together. It's not. I'm not enthusiastic because it's a bad kit, because it absolutely isn't. It's a beautiful thing to put together.
It is, yeah.
I've even got over doing some of the decals, and it's just this point where I need to put the wheels, undercarriage together. I need to put the propellers together, bolt it all together, and it's done. It really isn't that much work to do, but I'm terrible for shiny thing, you know. So I haven't had the discipline to do that one, and that's to my eternal shame. And I'm really sorry to Paramjit, who designed it, because it's a lovely kit to put together.
It is. I mean, I'm very similar stage with mine. So mine just needs the wings, because I've done mine with folded wings, and I just need to put the wings on, basically. And everything's painted, everything's done. I just need to put the wings on, finalize the transparencies, and it's good. And I should really, but again, you know, the
weird, isn't
the mistress of YouTube requires all these other things, and
yeah, absolutely. It's just a strange thing that you get to that point, and as you say, there's so little extra to do, but you just, I don't know, just can't seem to get over that last hurdle. I don't know why.
Well, I think John Alec said this as well, as his, in Airfix and Chill a while ago. I couldn't make the one, but they're saying about headaches in modelling, and he hit the nail on the head for me. And it was just like finishing models. And it's just like that to me is the headache. It's just like, I love the build process. I love doing the painting. Bringing it all together and getting the satisfaction of actually finishing it always seems to be the last hurdle for me.
And those
so many pieces.
I definitely noticed that in my videos. The cockpit build, it's all shot nicely, everything, and it gets to a point roughly around priming and spraying where I tend to do stuff and not maybe film as much of it as I should do, because I just want to get on. And then I have to really stop myself. No, don't just build the undercarriage. You've got to film the undercarriage being built, Gary. That's your job. That's what you're there for. Let's build it and say, ta-da, here's one I made earlier. That's no good to anyone. But you do find yourself getting that. Again, also because you think, well, I need to do this because I want to make a start on that. And, you know, it's the next build is always the bane of any YouTuber's life, I think, because it's what you halfway through your current build, you start thinking about the next build, and you really shouldn't. You should just I'll worry about that another day. I really should get this one finished first before going to those luxuries. But hey, that's where we are. We're fallible. Very fallible.
First question of the evening, and just to remind everybody, if you have a question, Ivan has very helpfully put everything in capitals, which really makes it stand out. But you don't have to put everything in capitals, but feel free to if you want to. But please do put question in big capital letters so we can see it, because that helps pull it out of all of the other comments that go through. Has anyone built the 124 scale Airfix Harrier? I just got a brand new one for a bargain of £40. That's pretty good. I've not built it.
No, me neither.
124 scale Harrier. I just don't know what I would do with it. To me, it's not I like the Harrier, but I've never really been like. I think for doing a 124 scale, you have to have some kind of love for the subject, rather than just it's okay. You know, I don't quite have that. If it was a modern Airfix Harrier, that might be a different story. But the older one,
C Harrier or GL7 and later, and I'm happy. because I can do it in 800 squadron colors, so that's cool. But yeah, the early ones, I'm not that fussed with.
But £40, can't complain at that.
Amazing bargain.
I would just say enjoy it.
Yeah.
Steve T has a question. Have you ever completed a kit, looked at it and thought, well, that didn't turn out very well, did it? I've done it today. If you did it, how did you motivate yourself for the next one? I think we all have, right, Steve? I don't know about you, Gary, but
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, whether it's a mistake or it's just it isn't quite how you envisaged it in your mind. I think the thing is not to get disheartened by it. It's a step on the journey, and not every step is sure-footed on any journey. Sometimes you make a little bit of a wobble, and you just think, okay, well, why don't I really like it? What do I think would have been better about it, and how would I do it next time? I think for me, that's what I would try and look at. So, if I messed up the varnish, it's like, well, okay, I won't use that varnish again. I'll test it on a test piece first. As long as you take something away from it, I think you're good. Definitely.
Yeah, there's been plenty of planes I've built and kits I've built, and I've looked at it and thought, yeah, wasn't what I was hoping for. And it's because I've done something wrong. But as you say, with me, I just put it in a box. I've done it, shot it, videos up, goes in a box. I've got another kit to make. I need now to focus on the next kit and try and get some excitement about that, because every kit, oddly enough, pretty much, I won't say every kit, because one or two I've gone, I really don't know why I'm making this, but I said I would. But most of the time, I'm building kits because I'm excited to build them. Even though it's my job, I still get excited opening the box that first time, and you think, right, now I'm going to write, where's the first bits, what frame them, start finding bits, start planning how you're going to do something. I love all of that. And if one kit doesn't go as well as I'd hoped, there's a reason why. Other than, basically ineptitude, there's probably a reason. I've done something that I thought would work. As you say, maybe it's a varnish, maybe it's the way I've diluted the paint over too much and it hasn't sprayed the way I wanted, and I didn't want to go back and repair it. Or there's always a reason why. And you take it to your next model and think, I can do better than that. So now I know what not to do. And that's just what model making is about, knowing what not to do, because you've made that. And that's what, YouTube exists in part to help you with a bit. So, because there's a load of people like us who make mistakes all the time. Yeah. So you can see what we do and what not to do. As long as
we show it to everybody.
Absolutely. I'm proud of it. So, oh my God, I really messed this up. But, A, it's entertaining, and B, it sort of humanizes us slightly. But also, it shows people that, this is a mistake that can be made. Don't make this mistake. This is how you go around it. Or if you do that, this is how you can cure it. And those tricks you can carry every single build. You can carry the knowledge of previous tricks and tips and hints that you've gathered. And it just go for it.
I don't think that it's
build. Love it. Who cares?
Yeah, don't think that it's just you that makes mistakes. I think it is easy. And I think, here we go. It is Gary that said here, we're all our worst critic. And that's absolutely true. And, it's very easy to look at something that somebody else would say, oh, you've made a nice job of that. And say, yeah, but, the aerial's wrong, or I broke this piece, or, I did this window tint, it didn't really work out the way I wanted it to. It's like, well, okay. It's like, if you can identify what it is you don't like about it, and why it didn't turn out. So say you think, the varnish was a bit too gloss. It's like, well, okay, then just remember not to use whatever formula of varnish you use, or use a matter one, or if it's too matte, use a semi-gloss. If you did a wash and it didn't work out, did you put too much on? Did you leave it for too long? It is all a learning process. And I think of the lightning build I did, which I got really good feedback from and stuff. When I sprayed the blue, which was the last thing I sprayed, of course, on the entire thing, was the blue spine and the tail. I've really messed it up. I got really bad orange peel. I don't know particularly why I put it. I think I tried, because again, that same problem, Gary, you're getting to the end of a build, and I was trying just to push through.
Yeah.
And I hurried it and put too much paint on.
Right.
And it orange peeled, and I looked at it and just thought, well, I have to finish this, because it was kind of special, because it was like built in honor of my dad, and and so it's just like, well, how do you deal with it? And it's like, well, I'm just going to have to sand it down. I'm going to have to sand it down with a 600 or 400 or whatever I used, and then just lightly apply paint on, as I should have done in the first place. And it's just accepting that and then going on. If you've done a model where you've had something like that, and you don't have to finish it, and you think, oh, that's not how it turned out. Well, like with that, if it was orange peel, it's like, right, okay, next time I need to just be careful and not rush that part, and not put down too much paint. So I would say just look at it. Don't think, don't feel bad about it. Just think, what would I change about it if I could, and then take that on to the next build. Yeah,
totally,
definitely,
totally. Most of the mistakes I've made building models is because I've been in a rush. And I thought, oh, I can just get on with this bit whilst waiting for something else, or I can just fit this now whilst this is drying. Guaranteed, no, you can't. There's a reason why it says you do, and then you leave it to dry, because you start putting pressure on other things. It pops over. It's always about, right, get to where you need to be, and then just leave it. Walk away. There's plenty of time. Unless you're doing it for a living or a commission, you're not under time pressure. So spend the time, enjoy the time, and that way you enjoy the experience. And as you say, you're putting paint coats on, let them dry properly between applications. Don't rush, which is what I do quite often. I rush it too much, and oh great, now I've got to take that off and start all over again, and I wasted even more time than if I'd have just put it down. Right, I'll go and make a cup of coffee, wait for that, because it'll be dry in 10 minutes. I can put another paint layer down. Yeah,
I think that's. Yeah, and I think that's why quite a lot of modelers have more than one project on the go, because and quite often different projects, like an aircraft and an AFV, because they have different build processes. So with an aircraft is very sort of stop and start. You do the cockpit, and you might watch the cockpit, and then you got to wait. So it's just like, where an AFV, while that is waiting, if you're got twitchy fingers, okay, I'll have a go at this AFV, which is basically a box. It's a gun box, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unless it's a mini art kit, in which case, that's like an aircraft.
Yeah.
But then you've only yourself to blame.
Definitely.
So, it's don't let it discourage you, for sure.
Totally.
Because we've all been there. And it doesn't matter what your skill level is either, you will continue to make mistakes because we're human, right?
Yeah. Totally.
This is a good question from Andy. How much have ICM improved since 2022? That was the last time I bought one, and it was shockingly bad in flash and fit. Now, I'm going to ask you, Andy, was it a 2022 tooling, or was it just one that you bought in 2022 that was tooled earlier? Because you can still buy ICM kits, which are both not original ICM toolings, or come from what I'd call the old ICM before the current management. Since 2022, they've been doing everything, well, since a lot earlier than that, they've been doing everything in-house. The quality of their stuff has been first rate. So really depends what kit you're talking about. But again, ScaleMates is your friend. Have a look there. I've not been disappointed at anything I've built from ICM that's been tooled. Well, actually, even I did that Burger Panther. In fact, it's around here somewhere. I still haven't finished the damn tracks on it. But the original tooling of that was, I think, 2005. It's one of the older ones. It has a couple of fit issues on some hatches, but otherwise, it's a really nice build. And the 2024 tooling bits are flawless. And you can tell the difference between the two, but only because the recent stuff is so good. But 2022, I mean, they were doing brilliant stuff in 2022. So I suspect you might have picked up an older kit.
definitely.
Just still being taught.
Mm.
For
Yeah.
instance, the Ghost of Kiev, is a
Yeah.
1990s ICM kit,
Mm.
and it's problematic in areas.
Challenging.
Be kind.
Yeah. Well, it's like the BF 109s that they sell. I don't like them at all. In fact, I built one for the Mistel combination aircraft. The Junkers 88 it was sitting on is beautiful. It's so
Yeah.
nice.
That is a really nice kit.
But the BF 109 on top was so awful, and it's got all the engine and all. Didn't do any of that. I just glued all the engine cowling together, shoved it on the nose, and I said that's good enough. Because they're trying to fit them around the engine, which I wasn't going to see anyway. Is I can't. No, I can't be. I haven't got time to do this. It's such a long process. But yeah, the Junkers 88 beneath it was just exquisite. Oh, it's so nice to build.
Yeah, I did. I'm doing well. So I did. I've got a long way through the JU88P.
Oh right, yes, I've got one up here to do. Yeah,
that's and again the base 88 kit is lovely. I would say like most, if not all, 48 scale ICM aircraft, it comes with complete engines. Should you wish to open a cowl and go mad with that, it's just a really really nice kit. And then you've got the massive underslung 75-meter gun, which it wasn't a very good tank destroyer, but it's an interesting aircraft. I love it.
Completely, yeah.
Michael Myers says, usually stick to 148 or 178. Don't have enough room to display the huge kits. Well, thanks to all of you, because I did put up a post earlier today about topics. And I think the first one that came in, which I thought was a pretty good one to talk about, is storage and display of finished models, and with an addendum to that, how to transport them to and from shows or when moving house. Because I think all of those are subjects and topics that all of us face at some point or other, unless we live in a museum or something like that, have infinite room. But it's often a reason people choose the scales they do, I think. So, and again, the 124th Harrier, it's a big old kit, it's a big aircraft, and not everybody has room to display that.
No.
Another question from Macreel Keneal. That's a nice rhyming name there. What kind of rigging wire do you use for 1/72nd scale planes? I'm building a Fokker F7, so some rigging control wires are required. You brave person. 1/72nd World War I aircraft are, interesting. Have you built World War I stuff, Gary? What do you use?
I've built pre-World War I stuff actually not long ago. Something called I built a Martin Handeside monoplane. It was about 1913, I think. Which was actually a lovely kit, a really nice kit. I built that during the Avis annular wing monoplane. Absolutely beautiful thing. I built one of those, and that that just has rigging going all the way around the wing, or from a centre post to every part of the wing, which is quite cool. I'm not too scared of it. I'm good at doing it, but I'm not scared of it. For 1/72nd, I tend to use the Ushi spandex stuff, the stretchy stuff, because it's easy just to glue, tiny bit of blob of super glue, and you're there. And because it's spandex, you can just stretch it just a tiny bit more than loose. Put it on super glue, trim it, and its natural tension just keeps it straight. But for the Bulldog, the 1/48th Bulldog, I was going to maybe use some nickel chrome wire or something like that. Some very, very thin wire instead of the Ushi stuff. but for 72nd Ushi, because it looks good at that scale.
Yeah, and there are a number of companies that do the various grades of elastic wire.
Mm.
Well, it's not wire, is it? Elastic thread, I should say.
Yeah.
Or you can buy off-brand stuff. 72nd scale, you need to be pretty fine. But and I do apologise. The Fokker F7 is actually a 1920s aircraft, isn't it?
Oh right, okay.
It's a Dutch monoplane. But yeah, you see, I'm not au fait with that period of history really. So I see Fokker and think automatically World War One, especially when you talk about rigging.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the good thing about any sort of stretchy thread is exactly as Gary said. You can attach it to one end, you can take it through, and either like drill a little hole in something. So when I've rigged biplanes, I've tended to actually drill through the wing, so you get a really good anchor, like through, and then you can pull it and you can tension it. And as Gary said, only a tiny little bit. You don't need much. You just need enough to keep it taut. Because I have used fishing line, like really low breaking strength monofilament fishing line, works really well, but it's an absolute sod to glue.
Yeah,
it's kind of resistant to all known glues, which is good for fishing, but it's not so good for modeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Andy Freeman tried to build the Harrier as a kid, but never finished it. Now have it as a vintage classic in my stash because I feel I'm more likely to succeed this time. Yeah, I think that is something that a lot of us do. I mean, I thought about the 1/24 scale Airfix Stuka. So I did that as a child. Well, my dad did it really with me. He did most of the heavy lifting, I feel. But there are such better kits out there now, and they're not very much more, So yeah, for me, it was a bit of an odd choice for Airfix, but hey. Petty's Pit Stop evening all. Alex, did you know your guest looks vaguely like Gary?
Very vaguely.
Vaguely. Yeah.
Very vaguely. It's been one of those days.
Michael Barrows, I just completed a kit. I could have done better. As long as I have a stash, there's always another kit coming up. I try to do better on that one. Yeah, I think that's the way to. I mean, so one of the things that's nice about sort of YouTube or being able to take photos of things is that you can kind of catalog your journey. So when you look back on things, then you can say, well, actually, I may not be really happy with what I've just made, but compare it to one you did a year ago and think, well, actually, it's quite a lot better than that. So, as long as you feel you're enjoying it, if you enjoy it, it doesn't matter, right? But if you are trying to, get better in your modeling and you do actually, feel that you're on a journey, as long as you're getting, one foot in front of the other, you're good.
Totally.
Lots of questions tonight, which is good. Question, you mentioned figures. Is there a gap in the market for aftermarket figures, say pilots, bomber crew, etc., for specific kits, or for them to do STL files as 3D printers are becoming cheaper? Good question. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, I can only, for specific kits, I can only go back to what I've heard from some of the designers at Airfix. For example, they were talking about the Mosquito, the 1/72 Mosquito. And I said, but it's just bizarre that you only provide a pilot, seeing as you can see the pilot and the not only that, you can see it in the box art. It's a bit of a giveaway. And they said, yeah, the problem is to actually get the navigator in because of the thickness of the plastic, which is way over scale. It was a snug fit to begin with on a real Mosquito. And there just isn't the room for a regular size figure that they can pull out of their store of pre-designed figures because, as I said, they don't have a figure specialist in-house. Whether that would, maybe someone could figure out a way of doing that, I don't know. But, it's like people doing aftermarket paint masks or whatever. I guess it would take them getting hold of a kit and physically trying to redesign and printing some prototypes and maybe scanning it in and whatever they do. It would be a lengthy process. I think for bigger scales it would be easier, but for 1/72, I think really tricky. 48th and upwards, I think they could be in fact there are companies that do provide them for like B17s and things like that.
Yeah, I mean you've got to think of the economics of it. That's the basic thing. So if somebody went and, say for the mosquito kit, they designed a pilot and a navigator, it's going to only fit that one kit, the Airfix mosquito. So that is their complete possible market. And say they're going to get 10% of that, is that a good return on investment? How much are you going to charge for them? How much of that market is going to pay for, an extra, £5 for 2 figures, which, bumps the price of 1/72 kit up by a big percentage, even though it's only, people say only £5, but then it's like, oh, that's £2.50 a figure, which, isn't much, but, it's kind of that thing. So how much would it take a designer, or even if you went on Fiverr, and asked somebody to design a figure, which I have done, because I wanted Johnny Johnson for my Spitfire, 124 scale Spitfire. And say a Fiverr artist charges £100 to design a figure, or 2 72nd scale figures that will fit in there. You're going to have to sell quite a lot because you've got to physically produce them as well. So they cost £1 to make. So you're making 80% profit. You're still got to sell quite a lot just to break even with your just design cost. So this is the problem. So yes, there is a gap, but is it one that's worth anybody filling? This is why I think generic figures like the ones ICM produce, like a Bomber Crew, which are more kind of diorama base, which have probably got a much wider market because more people just statistically will model a plane on the ground than flying. Then you can produce some injected molded plastic, which is cheaper. The economics of it drive it. It costs the same to design an STL figure as it does to basically the great majority of the cost in making a figure is in the design process rather than actually making it. Because if a company like Airfix did it, it would probably be more cost effective to get it externally 3D printed for them rather than injection molding, because the cost of the tools would be prohibitive. So it's always going to be easier for the manufacturer to do it. But if they don't have the in-house design people to do it, again, it's all extra cost that you're adding into that, and they have to formulate and pull that into the formulas for calculating how much the kit costs. So are you going to drive up the kit cost for everybody so most people can throw those away? This is where it starts to get into the economics of it. And I think people often don't consider just like, it doesn't have a pilot, which is a fair criticism, but those are kind of things that drive it. I mean, to me, it's a little bit of a cop out from Airfix, because it's like, you've got a stock of figures, and it doesn't have to be brilliant. Cut off his legs, that's what they used to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, you think of the old Airfix Lancaster,
crouched out little blobs for the back end,
I mean, that the old Airfix Lancaster, the rear gunner, whose hands are actually just the circle that the two pieces came into. It's like, it's not very realistic. It's like, what are you going to see? Dear. William has a question. Just getting into the hobby, what would you say is a good aircraft build to start with? I will throw back a question to you, William. Well, I'll answer in two ways. One, I'll say you should always build something you love if you're just starting. Secondly, what kind of thing are you into 72nd scale, 48 scale? Which kind of brings us back to the topic when we eventually get to it, of what do you have the room to actually build and store? So pop another piece, another comment in just to say, what kind of things interest you? Because if it's modern aircraft in 48 scale, it's going to be a different set of answers than if you say World War I biplanes, your thing. But I would say the core is do something that you're actually interested in, that you love, because you'll be more enthusiastic about that, even if you mess it up, because you can always build it again. If you love it, you'll build it again. So yeah, just pop another comment in, and we'll come back to that. Okay. Just trying to catch up because I am well behind with the chat. So again, forgive me if I miss anything. If I do, just pop it in the comments again and I'll get to it. Michael Myers says, I'm getting ready to upgrade my airbrush and spray booth. I'm a Galeri fanboy, so I'm getting a Mobius airbrush. What spray booth do you recommend for under $100 US fixed income? Oh. What would you say, Gary?
Oh boy, I don't know about that. I can't remember how much my one was. I've got one of these Bart Sharp things with the two extractors, which is lovely. But it was more than $100. I know that. And the Gallery one is about $230, $240, I think. Yeah. It's got the water curtain at the back. They've just released them for the UK and Europe. Just after many, many years, they finally got a presumably multi-voltage power supply for it and managed to put it in. So they're selling them over here now.
It's funny because I asked them about that when they were talking about me looking at the Galeri brushes. And I was like, oh, that's great. I'd love to look at the spray booth as well. And they're just like, we can't actually supply it to the UK at the moment. Yeah. Like, oh, okay. Well, when you do.
Or the compressor.
Yeah, and the compressor as well. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, I'd get in touch with them again because I just noticed it the other day on their website. They were talking about that. I don't know. I actually couldn't help on that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, $100 is tight.
Yeah.
I would say if you might be better, depending. A lot of this is very circumstantial, right? So if you have an area, well, okay, I'm going to rewind again. What are you spraying? Because that will make a difference. If you're spraying acrylic, aqueous acrylics, is very different than if you're spraying lacquers or enamels. If you're spraying water-based acrylics, then you can get away with a particle mask and a cardboard box with a light in it. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. What room do you have? There are other options that you can then upgrade, but a lot of it does depend because obviously spraying lacquers, you don't really have that option. You really do need to extract right from the off. And $100 might be tight. It might be worth kind of saving up for, that 150, 160, because I think about £120, I think, which is around about that $150, $160 mark, is where the Bart Sharp, I think, starts to come in, isn't it? And I've heard a lot of good things about the Bart Sharp. A lot of people. I think Sully has one.
It's a really nice thing. Really nice to use.
Tiger says, in terms of cost strict options, out of Airfix's 7 new 124 scale releases, 5 have had 4 schemes and 2 had 3 schemes. Mosquito re-release and the Spitfire Mark 8. Yeah. So I saw you covered the Spitfire Mark 8 in this Monday, didn't you?
Yeah.
Gary.
Yeah. In fact, did a video about it last week when they announced it.
Yeah. I didn't catch that one, but what did you make of the release?
It's what I kind of expected it would be. It was a low fanfare thing because it's a capex 2 or 3 release. It's a we've made one. I mean the hoo-ha over the Mark 9, the new molding of that. They're always going to make. Well, in fact, when we saw the Mark 9, we knew there was going to be a Mark 8 because under the tail you've got a separate piece for where the tail wheel goes. So straight away, okay, well, you're going to do one with a retractable tail gear then in the future. So of course there's going to be a Mark 8. Because most of the other stuff is there, apart from the wings are slightly different, but the wing mold doesn't need much changing because it's got slightly shorter ailerons. So they have had to make a new wing, but it's not like it was a completely new wing. It's just a new mold for the wing because the CAD, they do all this CAD when they do the first release. So the fact they just announced it, there it goes. No big press event, no big fanfare for it because I think everyone knew it was coming, and B, because it's not like it's not like it's if they'd announced a Hurricane, it would have been a very, very different story. If a Focke 190 or a Biff 1 whatever, it's just a second release of a kit they've already started making. So
I was surprised, to be honest, that it was a Mark 8 so soon after the Mark 9, because it's not been 2 years, it's been sort of 20 months. I think they sold a lot of Mark 9s, because it was a really nice kit, got really good reviews. I loved mine. I thought it was great. The Mark 8 is one of those, it's sort of the Spitfire lovers mark, isn't it? If you like Spitfires generally, including people who flew them, actually, we said the Mark 8
it's his favourite mark.
The best to fly, yeah. With standard wingtips, not the extended.
Yes, with the wingtips,
they hated, yeah. I honestly thought they might do an early one because they got the what do you call them? The flip down landing headlights that was in the earlier marks that were deleted in 9 when they worked out that the Spitfire was a terrible night fighter. The Spitfire was a bit of a one-trick pony. It wasn't a very good fighter bomber. It wasn't a good night fighter. In PR, it was okay at that. But it was an interceptor, and it was a supremely good interceptor. But yeah, don't try and shoehorn it into other jobs. It's a thoroughbred. It doesn't want to do that.
No.
A Mark 8 for me, I thought they might do a Mark 5 before they do a Mark 8 because it's the next most produced one. It was used in a lot of theatres as well, so there's lots of decal options. But and it's very similar. They'd have had to do, like you say, modify the fuselage this time because it was it 9 inches shorter, something like that. And another interim. The 2 most produced versions of the Spitfire were both interim versions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But the Mark 8,
But then who's to say that like another year or 2 down the line they won't have a Mark?
But I just think
they've done most of the hard work. So
visually, the Mark 8 is so similar in a lot of ways to the Mark 9 for a non-expert.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just thinking again about the economics, about the market size for a Mark 8 versus a Mark 5. It's not the commercial decision I would have made, but I'm obviously not in that position. So it was slightly surprising from that. Very welcome. Looks a lovely kit. I have no interest in making it because I made the Mark 9 recently, and it's like, how many 124 Spitfires can you have?
I think it's a good idea leading with an Australian scheme, though.
Yeah,
I think that helps their marketing push, having an Aussie one on the box art rather than the RAF Burma one or the American one necessarily.
But only 3 schemes, which especially after the prior one had, was it 4 or 5 that they had?
4. Yeah. Oh well, no, I think there was a 5th one with Johnny Johnson. There was a variant, I think, of Johnny Johnson's aircraft. I think from memory. Yeah. There were 4 primary schemes, but there was a version of one of the schemes had a second version or something. So effectively 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I don't know whether this is just a general cost-cutting measure at Airfix. I've kind of seen a few little things in the last year or so. So with Gannett, which I didn't make the point I meant to at the time, we got sidetracked completely, which is a good thing. But the Gannett, the instruction sheet for the Gannett, comparing that side by side with the one for the Sea King, it's like they're trying to cram it into, it's like we've got 10 sheets or whatever it was, and it's just like, and it has to fit, and it's like, something that was this size on the Sea King was now this size. It's just like
absolutely.
And it's like, think of the target market for the Gannett, which is probably, let's face it, not a 20-year-old with excellent eyesight, probably people around our age or older, who do need glasses to see something, font size 2. So yeah, just little things like that, and like a tightening of number of schemes and stuff, and just wondering, but anywho, there's a comment there, 148th, which that was from William, who mentioned before. So 148th, starting out, what would you say is a good starting 148th kit, Gary?
One of the Airfix Hurricanes, if they're into monoplanes. I love them. Really, really like the Airfix Hurricane. The Spitfires are quite nice. Actually, they're easy to build. They're relatively straightforward to build as well.
I would say some of the Edward 148 scale, like the weekend.
The weekend ones,
yeah.
They fit beautifully.
Yeah, some of those are really nice. And actually cheaper than the Airfix ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just trying to think I'm going to look around what's sitting up there. So much to do. Oh my God. So depressing. Yeah.
The other thing I would say is if you're more into Axis aircraft, like the 148th Focke-Wulf 190 from Tamiya, or the 190, the 109, whatever variant. Those kits are all sort of from the late 90s, early noughties, but they're all absolutely fantastic. They fit together beautifully. They look nice, I don't know about if there's small inaccuracies or whatever. I don't really care about that. But they're great kits. And if you're starting out, you shouldn't really care about that.
No, absolutely not. No.
And they're not very much, because again, to me, I have this strange sort of tool age-based pricing structure. So because they're older tools, they'll be cheaper. So you can buy those very reasonably. I mean, even some of the other 48 scale kits from Tamiya are pretty good. The Mosquito, the Beaufighter. Beaufighter's a lovely kit. Again, kind of then goes into how much room do you have?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say an ICM kit. I don't think ICM kits are beginner kits.
No.
I'd get a few under your belt before you do those. Not because they are bad, but they're just very complex, some of the pieces for a beginner.
Totally.
But quite good if you've got a couple of kits under your belt.
Yeah.
An ICM kit's not a bad sort of second step.
From some of those sort of more, say, mainstream providers like Airfix and Edward and Tamiya, maybe looking at things that are a few years old, not like 50 years old, but something that's like 10, 15 years old, by looking at scale mates, is probably the best way, because they didn't overcomplicate things so much then, to be honest. I think now there's so much of a race to put every little bit and piece on, and there is nothing more dispiriting than that IKEA moment that you get to the end of a kit and you find something that A, I know that's got to go on, and B, I don't know where or in what part of the instructions it is, but I know that should be there somewhere, and that's the worst feeling. So yeah, as you say, some of those Tamiya 148s are beautiful kits. I think they fit really well. They make a really good representation. They're not over complex, and you get a sense of achievement out of them. And that's what you want when you're starting out: a sense of achievement, a sense of happiness with what you do.
Yeah, you want a couple of quick wins as they say. And the Tamiya kits, actually, the Crouch is predicting the future here. Yeah, get a Tamiya 148th World War II fighter of your choice. Great kits, and we'll encourage you. Yeah, absolutely. They are. People complain a lot about Tamiya kits. You shake the box and it falls out. Like that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Good fit and nice panel lines, are something to be derided.
Yeah.
No, that's a good thing. They are, they are really nice kits.
Why make it hard? We are supposed to enjoy this. Exactly. I think we do lose a lot of focus on this. This is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. So if you can, I love starter sets. I love anything simple from time to time, just because I can do it really easily, and I feel good about having made it. It doesn't have to be exhibition quality. It doesn't have to be like 1/24 scale with every little rivet filled in. You've got to do things for fun. That's the whole point. You're paying for it. You might as well have fun doing it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, I just built the Italieri, which is actually the AMT XB70.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which is a horrible kit in terms of the way it fits, because it doesn't. It's very AMT. Fortunately, Italieri plastic is nice and soft, so it was sandable and stuff. And I've done it in a Southeast Asia camouflage scheme. Because that was fun. That was voted for on the channel. It was a what if. I didn't want to do it boring white. Everyone you see is like that because that's what they actually were.
Yeah.
But if they had gone into service and the roles had been changed, like the F-111 and stuff, to a low strike bomber, they would have probably been in Vietnam doing. Oh God, what was the operation? I was looking at it earlier to see what fantasy scheme I was going. I think I'm going to go 484th Bomber Wing. But God, I've completely forgotten it now. Basically, when they got B-52s to just level
Rolling or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I
thought that the Valkyrie would have been ideal for that, actually.
That actually looked really cool in just black, like SR-71 black.
Yeah.
Even doing something that basic, a change to a kit, can really lift it, and it personalizes it. It makes you feel happy about it better, I think.
Yeah. So the hobby should always be fun. But when you're starting out, you want something that fits together, that you can get that sense of achievement, that actually looks nice when you've done it. And the Tamiya 48 scale kit won't let you down. Taggers makes a really good point there, actually. The Spitfire could have easily been a January announcement. That's it. Because it is, it's £100 shy a penny, right? RRP.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly like, especially this time of year, which is an odd one, with holidays and stuff. It's like suddenly, even if I really wanted a Mark 8, I'm not just going to suddenly like, I've got a spare £100 that I can just go and drop on a model like that. So I think if you knew it was coming, it's a good point, I think. Yeah, I would have expected a surprise announcement to have a bit more fanfare and be, not sure why they did that. Anyway.
I still think they've got 2 more on their way. 2 more.
Oh, I'm sure they have.
This year.
I'm sure they have. Hi, Alex. I live fairly local and thought I'd check out the shop compared to my other local stores. Judd Lamb, and SMS. However, you were closed. Yes. I was actually just inside the M25 today. So a little difficult to, hence the 2-hour drive back. So a little difficult, and it's been a bit difficult over the past few weeks to open every day. I'm always open on a Saturday, so you can always find me open on a Saturday. Otherwise, give me a call. The number's on the website to see whether I'm open a particular day to stop you wasting a trip. So I'm open in the week, but it just tends to be a little bit variable because of other life stuff, basically. Julian, question: if you spray outside, could you use a collapsible photo booth? As there shouldn't be an issue with ventilation. You can use a cardboard box. I mean, if you spray outside, do you need to? The main thing the spray booth is for, well, it's for two things, right? It's to contain overspray, so you don't end up with a fine grey covering of particles everywhere. And you can tell if you've oversprayed without that sort of thing. You just run your finger along the bench afterwards, you get like little bits of dust, which are little paint particles. And the other thing is obviously to stop all that little dusty particles ending up in your lungs.
Yeah.
Those are the two main things it's for. If you're spraying outside, those don't really happen. So yeah. So you could use a collapsible photo booth, or you could just spray it outside. Depending on how long your hose was, I suppose.
Yeah. With a cardboard box so you don't go all over the garden furniture.
Yeah. So. I've actually spray painted stuff before on grass, and then realised I just spray painted the grass. It's like, right, better cut it then.
Yeah, it'll grow out. Don't worry about
it. GNA Scale Model Apprentice, I pre-ordered the Mark 8 strictly for the USAF bare metal scheme. Fair enough. Was it bare metal or was it painted silver?
Don't
know.
That's interesting. Well, it might be a combination like on the Mustang.
Yeah. Well, it had to be a combination because the rudders were fabric, weren't they?
Or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Were the ailerons metal on the Mark 8? Because they were retrospectively, because they started on the 9, but only after the initial production. Because they made a big difference to the performance according to the pilots.
And that I don't know.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
Oops, that's one I've just done. Got to remember, Edward did Aussie box art for their version of the Mark 8. Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, it's going to be a common one, right? Because the Mark 8 was was mostly produced for overseas use, or most of them ended up overseas. It's the third most produced Marker Spitfire. They made just over 1,600 of them. Most of them ended up in the Far East or in Africa. In a lot of them in other Air Force use, like the RAF and USAF. So, yeah, the Aussie one is going to be a popular one for sure. Okay. Almost got to the present. Question: considering Tammy's approach, do you think Airfix should reconsider some VC kit prices? Airfix's 3 most expensive aircraft are this new Spit Mark 8 and 2 vintage classic kits, the Harrier and the Stuka.
Yeah, both of which are 1/24, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, you think, how much is the Rotodyne? That's like 20 odd pounds, isn't it? I mean, far be it from me to dictate Airfix's pricing policy. I think most of the production cost of those kits is in the decals.
Definitely.
Because they are all new cartograph decals. The tooling itself, I mean, the impressions per tool aren't going to be very much. Usually it's pence for injection molded stuff. Depends on the run. They will be doing smaller runs of the vintage classics than they will of the new kits, because they will expect to sell less of them. And generally, they are less expensive than their new alternatives. But if you do look at, what other people are selling some kits at, it's your money. You your money. You take your choice. Yeah.
I would do some level of tool repair, but not that much. They do a little bit of tarting up here and there, and maybe they'll tweak a little thing here and there, but it's only things like the bond bug where they sort of reverse engineered the transparent part for it. Yeah, but
yeah,
that's
same
very
with the,
unusual. That's
well, the
very,
same with the Author Antarctic, and that was only £6.
yeah,
Or £6 now, whatever.
yeah.
Anyway, I want to bring in John Alec. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Alex. Hi,
Or
Gary.
good afternoon, I should say to you.
Good, John Alec. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the chat, the stream, and listening to you guys. And thank you, Alex, for the invite. I thought I'd just pop in just for a little bit. So
Sure.
Good to see you,
I think you are uniquely placed, John, to talk about or to give your judgment on the Airfix Stuka, given that you are building the Trumpeter Stuka. Would you pay the same price for the Airfix Vintage Classic?
it's a good question. So I watched Terry, Little History did his, and it was, as most of his videos are, it's a multi-part series. And the details on the Airfix kit are absolutely superior to the Trumpeter one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so we were literally comparing rivet lines, like on the wings and stuff like that, between the two. He absolutely loved that kit. The Trumpeter, I loved it. It was 120 pound. I don't know what the Airfix one is. I've been very happy with the Trumpeter one, but I think the Airfix one is more accurate.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you have it. Yeah. So would I pay 120 pound for the Airfix one? Probably. I paid it for the Trumpeter. Yeah.
So maybe not then.
And he loved it, and it looked. It had more detail than the Trumpeter one.
Really?
So
I have to reconsider my.
Sorry if I threw that wrench there, but yeah, no problem.
Well, never say never. I always say there are no dead ends in modelling, and maybe. Steve T, I'm going to tackle my first ever mini art kit next. Cross your fingers for my sanity, please. Good luck, Steve. Michael Myers, Tamiya kits and Airfix starter sets are great for beginners. Get something simple so you won't get deterred by setbacks. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I asked Michael for the scale that William was looking at, because you said 72nd. I think anything in the Airfix starter kit range is a good bet, depending on what kind of period you're interested in. So do we have, am I up to date? Oh, almost. Come on, maybe apocryphal, but I heard D-Day aircraft recognition was silver equals USAF, brown, green, RAF, invisible equals Luftwaffe. Oh dear. Stuart, question: was the Supermarine Seafang F Mark 32 the last Spitfire variant?
Ooh.
I would ask Wiki.
Well,
consult the internet on that.
Technically, Spitfire variant, it wasn't anyway.
No, I mean, what do you class as a Spitfire? I mean, the Spitfire spawned other aircraft.
Yeah,
From
I mean, you
they weren't Spitfires
as well. You had the Spiteful, but then the Attacker was known as the Jet Spiteful. So you had the same laminar wing, and that's a jet aircraft. So I think it's the nature of aviation that these things just progress. I guess the last of the classic Spitfire variants would probably be the C-47, and whatever its equivalent was on land, but I don't know, 40 something. But yes, C-47, I guess. So Jeff Quill said that the C-47 at max takeoff was the same as a Spitfire Mark 1 with 32 passengers, something like that. insane amount of difference in their takeoff weights.
That's funny.
It's funny though, because a lot of Spitfire pilots preferred sort of the mid-variant Spitfires, like the 5, not necessarily the 5, the 9 and the 8, because even like when you got Griffin engines in, the Griffin was a lot heavier than the Merlin. So the power increased, but the weight also increased. So they were faster, but they weren't as maneuverable. And a lot of pilots preferred the maneuverability than the extra little bit of speed. I mean, some of it was obviously in fighting tactics, and obviously the turn of the Spitfire was phenomenal. You know, a German that got into a turn battle with a Spitfire was going to lose.
Yeah. My father always used to say about the Seafires that a lot of the pilots trained on various things, and they for their deck landing trials and all this sort of stuff, they flew the Seafire 3s, the Merlin ones. Then they got posted just after the war. They got posted to their squadrons on the carriers, and they were flying 15s and 17s, which had Griffins, which very unfortunately spin the other way. So when they given it a boot full of right rudder, they should have been giving it a boot full of left rudder, and then several of them ended up with their noses in the island on the aircraft carrier, because also being such a big engine, it wasn't just the propeller; it's the mass. The rotating mass of all the crankcase, all of that.
A lot of torque in that. Yeah.
Even when they put the contra-rotating props on the 47, it still had torque issues because the actual engine gear itself was rotating in one direction. It's a horrendous thing to put on an aircraft carrier. I mean, it didn't have much choice, but they were horrendous things.
Yeah, some very brave men have flown aircraft in the past, and women, of course. A lot of very women pilots.
Yeah.
Okay, so an hour and 10 minutes in, we'll get to our topic. Thank you all for the questions. It's been great to go through all of the questions and comments. So the topic, storage and display of finished models and transport. This is a question that comes up a lot for people. You know, we've mentioned it a few times about where do you store models, how do you store them? You know, I'd love to do that, but I don't have the room for it. And then the other part of that is, well, if you want to paint something, you've made something beautiful, now you've got to take it to a show. So you have to deal with, I mean, the US roads are just as bad as the UK roads. We just have twistier roads. But you've got to commit yourself to the road, to other people's driving, and you want that model to arrive hopefully in one piece, to do as few repairs as you can. How do you do it? So I'll open that to the floor.
I don't display my models at all. Quite simple. I just don't display my models. They get finished, they get put in boxes, and they get hidden away. Some of them get recycled. I'm very cold-hearted with my plastic because it's unfortunate. It's a business most of the time. There are several that I've kept because I really like them. I'm very fond of them, and they just get put in big, huge, like stackable storage boxes. I do have some in our lounge. There's an old, what used to be a CD rack, basically, but it was like floor to ceiling one, and that's where my history of 800 Squadron goes. So everything 800 Squadron flew is there, all 40 something of them, because I've all got to have wing fold options and marking options, whatever. But that's all. That's all. That everything else either gets stored or recycled or donated or whatever.
What about you, John? What do you do with your models?
I put them out. They either go on the table or the coffee table, or I have a large ledge out there. That's where they go. I mean, they just basically collect dust. And when Gary, when you were describing, I mean, you have such a massive social media presence. Have you ever thought about selling them? I mean,
I have. The biggest problem, again, as a subtopic to this actually, would be posting it to people. Unless they're prepared to actually come and pick it up. The thought of trusting is something I spent that long time, especially with propellers and guns and stuff. How you package that up, to survive the courier or mail system, is something. I mean, I guess maybe with some of the jets, providing they haven't got too many stores on them, or
like a modern jet. They don't have antennas.
So I'd like you to make me a 148 Camov KA-52 fully loaded.
Yeah, and post it to me.
Post it to me.
Right, the loadout. You got to worry about the loadout falling out. The
two massive contra-rotating props.
It's
one way of,
in an ideal world,
box, giving it, letting somebody else have it. And then, maybe getting a little bit from it. But so, Alex, I just put it out there. Some of the stuff is on my shelf still, but it just collects dust. Occasionally, friends come over, family, workmen, whatever, they come over, especially workmen. They come over and I've got them all out there. And they're like, oh man, and they come, they're mostly dudes, right? So they come over and they see models and, maybe they did them as kids or whatever. And they'll spend some time looking at them. But that's about it. I finish it. I get it. You finish it. You're doing a build for a video series or whatever. You photograph it. You upload the video, and then unless you're taking that to a model show or you're really going to show it off, that's it. That's sort of the end of it. I mean, I don't go out there and really look at my models. Once I'm done, I just put it out there and it collects dust. Yeah.
So I cheated because I got a shop.
Yeah, a bit of an extreme way of doing it, mate.
It is a bit of an extreme way. I mean, transporting them, I have shown up at model shows before, and I've always used the same method of transporting. I don't know whether it's the best one. But polystyrene, big polystyrene blocks that you use, you get your TV packed in and stuff. Putting model on that, and then using skewers, basically. We've actually got some skewers which have like flat pieces at the end, so they're like little swords or something. And then you stick those in, like usually at the junction between the fuselage and the wing. The 4 of those secure an aircraft to a piece of polystyrene. And then you can put that in a box, or you can, secure those to a board or whatever. And then just hope that you don't have a crash.
Yeah.
I've seen other people do a similar thing, but like have a box top, like a cake tin kind of, those cake transporters that have a big, plastic shield over it to protect it as well. I would say it's actually one of the advantages of making dioramas is, everything's fixed on a base already, and then you just have to cover the base. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I keep it for, man. This is a cake, a cake preserver.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, because they're ideal, right? Because they're designed to be quite tall, to preserve your, beautiful cake. So one of those, upside down, or some of them, just have a flat base, and then they have the plastic bit goes on. Actually, we just got one because Maria made a cake to take into work. And she made it so big it didn't quite fit. You have to kind of squish it a bit. But yeah, those work pretty well. Obviously, you have to secure it to the base, but
these are great for if you're doing cars. So if you're doing like a 2K cure, so that's why I have this. So what I'll do is I'll set this on the shelf.
Yeah.
And, the car has to be low enough, of course. And for that first 5 hours, 8 hours, you have to protect it, right? Because otherwise you're going to get particles. And so that's That's what I use this for. Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good point. It's a really good investment to do that, because once you've sprayed your aircraft, your tank, your car, especially cars, especially if you've got a gloss finish, which is going to take longer to dry, you need to try and preserve it. Because once you've got, I mean, the worst thing is talking. Steve T was mentioning earlier about, disappointments. You've worked really hard on a kit. You just need to seal everything in with your varnish, and you do that, and you come back, and I've had it before where there's a fly has landed on it. It's just, just like, you got to carve that out, and it's just like, if you put a nice cover over it, just like that cake tin, that doesn't happen, right? So, and it's a learning experience. Just like, oh, okay, need to protect my models next time I do that, or buy some fly paper,
or even an eyelash, or I have a sitting retriever. I've just got dog hair everywhere, so yeah, it's important.
That's why I have a hairless dog, John.
Oh, hey, good call, man.
Yeah, I mean, it is a millennial problem, isn't it? I mean, I used to have in a house sort of tall boy, I think it's called, like just an IKEA thing with glass shelves in, which was pretty good because, I mean, even like a drinks cabinet like this, allows you to display it and have, it's a piece of furniture rather than just being a, ugly thing sat in the corner with a load of dust catchers, as I think some people have said their mothers used to call them. I think my mum has said the same thing about my dad's models in the past.
Yeah.
There we go, the crowd. My mum called my models dust catchers.
It's true.
Which they are, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that actually is another thing. How do you keep your models dust free?
I don't. Gary?
I refer you to the answer I gave some moments ago. I don't display them. They're in boxes or they're gone. The ones that are on display, they just get very dusty, and every now and again I have to clean them. That's really annoying. Eventually, I'll be replacing that with a new cabinet that's actually got glass doors on it, so that stop the dust getting in the first place. But that's because it's a very specific set of kits that I want to have on display, because it's my dad's squadron. The rest of the stuff I build is really just not for display. It's for doing YouTube.
How do you clean your kits, Gary?
To my model club once a month. I'll take stuff there in one of the boxes. And it's almost like, well, this is the one and only public display that these things are ever going to get, because they're gone. This is like yesterday's news being today's chip paper. You know what I mean? It's like it's this month's show and tell at the club, and then it's gone. So what do
you actually use to clean the kits if they do get dusty?
I use really soft brushes to get most of the dust off. And then I use alcohol, IPA, isopropyl alcohol, very, very gently on them. It takes a long time, which is why I don't tend to do it very often. And cleaning the transparencies is a nightmare.
Yeah, I tend to blow mine with the airbrush.
Yeah.
Without any, obviously without anything in it. That's one thing you need to make sure. Julie makes a comment. Obtaining models and actually making them are two different hobbies. That has been said, that a lot of modelers are actually collectors.
Yeah.
Which I think is,
in some ways,
an element of the hobby.
Business. That's a big hobby. Having and the people are horrified at the thought of a box might actually be open. But each to their own. Each to their own. And this is just a small subset of what I've got. The floor is literally like just five piles of like 10 maybe kits each on the floor, as well as that whole wall. And this is a small thing that I'm trying. This is each of these I'm supposed to be building. I'm a bit behind.
Where's my stash?
I'm a little bit behind. I'm sorry, but you know.
I couldn't show you mine. I think if I stacked all of mine behind me, I think there's room. They're all in. I don't know how many liters they are. I think they're 80-liter tubs. Those big plastic.
Yeah.
It's quite a few.
Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of my kits are reformatted from the original box,
Right.
to save space. Because especially with older kits, they used to put a lot of bits in a big, well, not that many bits in a large box to make it seem like more impressive or whatever.
Yeah. Noticed that with Hobby 2000 recently. I've made a couple of their things, and they come in these really big, impressive boxes. And you open the box, and like it's about a third of it is empty space. You know, guys, you know, make a smaller box. I mean, it's not like a competition here. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of strange psychological subtext to it. But they do seem to waste a lot of cardboard.
Well, it's not only that, is it? I mean, now with shipping being so ridiculous,
Yes.
so volume is because I mean most kits don't weigh enough to like push stuff up, but a lot of kits, and Airfix are guilty of this as well, go beyond the what was it, the medium parcel? I think it's 65 centimeters, something like that.
Right,
yeah, and they're like 67, or they're 65 and a half, and then you've got to put it in a box so they go over. And it's just like, so the volumetric weight, they'll only weigh like a kilo with all the packing in. But the volumetric weight means it has to go large parcel, which bumps it up in terms of cost. So putting stuff in larger boxes is not a very good economic ploy at the moment.
Yeah. I feel the pain with that one. So I just had to send one of those ICM Tahi sets to America. And it's like looking at the shipping rates, it's like, oh, hang on. If this was like 4 centimeters shorter, it would cost me 30 quid. It's now going to cost me 70.
Yeah.
Literally for that much difference in the length of the box. And you keep saying, oh, come on, I'm way under on that direction. Yeah. I can't just add it all together.
Squash it like a marshmallow.
Centimeters and just add the 3 together.
Right.
No.
Right. It should be about absolute volume.
Yeah. But anyway, there we go. There we go.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you ever tried to send so obviously in my career, I've been to a lot of scientific conferences. Trying to send posters, which tend to be really long in one dimension, in tubes. Geez. Ridiculous. It's like, because it's like, it's 2.5 meters long, so we're going to charge you
if I can
as much as we possibly can.
I went to a conference in Belfast. I had a poster to take with me. So I turned up to Heathrow. Glad you went in, checked in. There you go. Thank you very much. I'll take this with. No, you can't. That's too long for security. You have to send. But it's a poster. Yeah, but it's a long tube, and that's too big for the X-ray machine. So you have to check it in. Okay, right, fine. Go and check it in. And it had to be checked in as excess size baggage.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm there for a day. I'm coming back in the evening. So I got on there. Everything's fine. Then they sent me to the wrong gate, entirely the wrong gate for the flight. So eventually I realised, I just went to, look, when is this flight? Well, not from here, sir. It's the other end of the terminal. Got to the other end of the terminal to see my plane disappearing along the tarmac. And I said, but look, when's the next flight? Oh, it's not for another hour. I thought, okay, well, I can do that. I said, well, will my poster be okay because it's checked in? I'm sorry, you've got checked baggage. Yeah. Oh, right. Let me see. 3 minutes later, the plane has returned to the terminal.
Oh, yeah, because they can't take, you can't check them.
So now I've got to walk onto this plane, which is now late, and try and start it out down there saying, yes, I am that important. I really am. You don't recognise me, but yes, I am that important. I'm obviously something in the government because we're going to Belfast. Oh, it's awful. And it's for a poster that eventually I just put into trash when I finished the day because I didn't need it ever again.
Well, you don't want that hassle going back to you.
They're coming from Belfast with a long tube. Oh, no.
Speaking of Belfast,
Even I get that.
so I used to go to so one of the first companies I worked for did electrochemical detection.
All right.
And electrochemical detection on a HPLC, a separation machine.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things it's good for detecting is explosives.
Yeah.
So when I used to go to Northern Ireland, it was usually centered around going to the Northern Ireland Forensic Science Agency, which was bombed out of its original quarters. So they were relocated into where they basically armor the Land Rovers.
Okay.
Which is kind of it's a big police cordoned thing, and that was full. Like you drive in through a baffle, and a couple of guys with armor lights are there with them pointed slightly to the side of you, whilst they put mirrors under your car and look at your boot and stuff. And it's like, yeah, this fills me with great confidence.
Yeah.
Because that was, I didn't know they'd been bombed out of the last place when I went to see the guy the first time, and he was just like, I was saying, oh, you got a nice place, and he's just like, oh, well, this is kind of temporary because we were bombed out of our last place. So we were like, what? Don't tell me that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was always fun.
Well, the guys that did the travel, I've been over a few times back in the sort of mid to late 80s, and the person who did all the travel arrangements for us for the company used to book us into the Europa Hotel in Belfast. And the first time I turned up there, even to get into the car park, it was the same thing, mirrors under the car and all that. I walked in and they said, "Welcome to the Europa Hotel, the world's most bombed hotel." What? Yes, this is
what an opening line.
Hotel in the world. We're very proud of that.
And we're still here.
You haven't lost a guest yet, sir. Have a nice stay. Oh, it's lovely.
I'm reminded of was it The Quest for the Holy Grail, where the guy had the castle which he built in a swamp, and it sank. So I built another one, and that sank too. But I built another one.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
still standing today.
Yeah. Oh dear, absolutely crazy.
Madness. Today I was looking for plans for the QE2. Found a place in the US. Plans cost £23 postage, $33 for paper plans.
Yeah.
Plans. Wow, that's insane.
And
shipping at the moment is mad.
What are called media rates. So if you're shipping, well, in the old days, CDs or DVDs or whatever, books. So if you were shipping media, you got a discounted rate. I don't know if that's still in place here in the States, but
no, we just see it as an opportunity to slap some more fees on. Aren't Hobby Boss purely reboxings? Do you mean Hobby 2000? Hobby Boss obviously are their own company, but Hobby 2000 just do old. I don't know whether they impress them themselves or they just get the plastic from other places, but they don't make their own tools for sure.
Oh, they're nice things to build because they tend to pick reasonably good base kits. Then they put in their own paint masks and they get new Casgraph decals made. So they're a good option especially for some of the things that are maybe a bit out of production or a bit difficult to find.
So Julian says, your stash is the shop. No. I think actually my stash is larger than the shop by a factor of several. And unfortunately, the really bad thing is, because everything at the shop is, even not everything in the shop is in the Shopify system, but a large proportion of it is. So I know the value of it, which is a scary number.
Oh, no.
And then I think...
If your stash is...
Yeah. I shudder to think.
2 or 3 or 4 times that, you're like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
Well, my excuse is that obviously when I bought, I got some really good deals.
Yeah.
That's what I tell myself.
That's what you tell yourself. Now it's better.
I mean, it's true. It's true. Yeah. So Julian Hall says, a USB mini vacuum seems like it might work. Do you know? So obviously I put the Temu video up last night. Yeah, it was last night. Which, I mean, typical YouTube has done really well. I don't know why, but the first thing I had was this little USB mini vacuum cleaner, which I was actually quite excited about because I thought it's going to be ideal, right? For my desk always gets in a mess, bits of shavings and dust and stuff. I've tried it now, and it actually, for little bits of plastic, works really well.
Mm-hmm.
But the internal filter is just that. It's just a filter. It's not like a dust filter.
Right.
So if you try doing like dust from sanding, it just redistributes. So it's just like, because I was doing it, it's like, oh yeah, it's picking it up. Why does my hand feel all,
Oh, God.
Yeah, so it just picks it up and then sort of pushes it outside. It's like, yeah, okay. So slightly disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only £5, so it's
Yeah, exactly.
it's not exactly the end of the world, but I'm thinking maybe I can get some like Hoover bag material to put like inside the filter so it actually works for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's worth even bothering, but
yeah.
Oh, I think we just missed Ivan. Sorry, missed you. Hope you had a good one. Question Alex, what's the chance of a video one day of your stash? Oh, that's actually not a bad idea. I should probably go through my... Well, no, I won't go through my stash. There's actually a channel called... I don't know if either of you have heard of it, a YouTube channel called Demolition Ranch.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see recently he posted, because apparently the guy who was killed trying to assassinate Trump was wearing one of their T-shirts.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And he came on saying,
Kidding.
yeah, he said, obviously we have no affiliation. We don't know. We sell them through the web, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But they do a whole bunch of gun stuff and like silly stuff and things. And yeah, I mean, it's a huge channel. But he does once a year, he gets his entire collection of guns out and shoots them all. And it's just like hundreds of guns, tables and tables and tables of them. My stash is much, much bigger than that. So I wouldn't go through it.
Yeah.
I could show you the boxes.
Yeah.
Cartons. And they're categorized now because I did put them all on ScaleMates.
Oh, well done.
Which is a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Because now, if somebody said, why don't, if I could have a vote on the channel or whatever, and say, why don't you build a whatever, a Tamiya King Tiger or something, I actually know where that is. Not because I remember it, but because I can go on ScaleMates and say, oh yeah, it's in box A4.
No.
Wow. Really, really disciplined of you, man.
Well, it was kind of forced upon me because I had to collect it all from my exes. So I thought, well, whilst I got them all out, before I put them in the loft,
might as well categorize them.
I categorized them all, and it was a bit of a trip down memory lane, seeing somebody say, oh yeah, I forgot I got this.
Yeah, I want to make it. Oh, yeah, but that's really bad because next I'm going to make one of these now. Yeah, here we go again.
Yeah, the list of potential YouTube videos then goes to like several hundred.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you're back to square one.
So, Steve, yeah, I think that's a really good idea. So I will do that. I can't guarantee when. But yeah, I like that idea. I like it a lot. So yeah, in terms of storing models, it's I think it's one of those things that is like a lot of modeling, it's very individual. So it depends on your circumstances. 3 people here, we all do different things. So I think the number of ways people approach it is probably almost as big as the number of modelers there are out there, right? because it depends on what room you have, whether you have a partner that accepts bits of plastic sticking around the house and collecting dust, how tolerant they are to that, because Maria just called through, not at all.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't keep any at home. Whether you've got somewhere else to put them. She couldn't hear that, you see.
Yeah.
Dear. But yeah, there are certainly options. Bits of furniture that either, display them nicely, and either you keep in your, locked away hidden area, or if you have a more tolerant partner than I do, display them in open view, or all that actually look like nice pieces of furniture as well, are always an option. Or keep them out of view. You can get shuttered cupboards and stuff where you could keep your completed models if you want, so they're still there, they're preserved, they're not gathering a lot of dust, and you can take them out and display them or rotate them if you've got a small limited area. Really is, I think, is pretty much as big as your imagination. There is a company, I'm just trying to think what it's called. I think it's the Really Useful Box Company. Have you guys heard of that? So they do plastic storage containers of various different sizes, and they all lock together. They're quite expensive. You sometimes see them at model shows, people selling them. And I've seen people use those because you can often, they're used a lot, I tell you what, they're used a lot in the sort of wargaming and mini painting, sort of like for Warhammer 40k and stuff. Because you can often put, not like shelves, but like little stands in, so you can get a couple of shelves in one of those boxes. And because they're all a standard size, like people get boards cut and things, those are quite a good option because they're super tough. So, some of the plastic storage containers you get from, bargain stores and things tend to be a bit brittle and can break. These are like really heavy-duty reinforced ones, which is why they're a bit pricey. But they are good for like taking stuff for, if you've got a model show to go to, and weathering the either the UK or US roads, or our twisted turns and sleeping policemen and speed reduction measures and all those kinds of things. And usually the places that model shows are at, sometimes the parking's a bit and sometimes you have to walk quite a way. I mean, the Nationals in the UK, you've got 200 or 300 yards walk, depending on where you park, before you can actually get into the centre.
Oh my gosh!
So you don't really want to be holding, because I have done this before, holding a piece of polystyrene with a model on a windy day is not ideal.
No.
So those boxes are pretty good in terms of transporting stuff. Alex Moore has a question. Been lurking tonight, just doing some prep work. John Ike, did you ever do a part 2 for Big Bertha? Got part 1 last night, but couldn't find number 2.
It's not up yet.
That's why you couldn't find it?
I've been, so it's all like sort of the base coat. So it's a tricolor thing. It's one of these World War I siege cannon things. So I've got the base coat down, and I've been just slowly working on the camo. So thank you, Alex. It's not out yet. It's going to come out at some point. Yeah. That was my first TACOM kit.
Oh, okay. How did you find it, other than needing a saw to cut the things from the sprue?
Yes. So that and the instructions were wanting.
I've heard that about TACOM kits quite a lot recently.
You get a lot of plastic for the price, and the the end result is really good, but part cleanup is really a chore because that plastic is so dense, and the instructions are not for beginners. That's for sure. Yeah.
Make it up as you go along. Instructions.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah. It always amazes me actually the difference in styrene, because it's all the same stuff, right? At a chemical level, at its basis, but the formulations that people use, the amount of cross-linking or whatever else they add to it, the properties of it just vary so much.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you prefer as a styrene? Do you? Because my ideal, I think, is probably, I think the current Airfix on ICM plastics, I tend to like a slightly softer plastic, easier to work with. I will take that over, something which is more resistant to bashes, because I don't intend bashing my model. But I know some people think it's too soft. What are your guys' preferences?
No, I don't think so. I think the ICM plastic is about ideal, really. It's got a nice sort of, like when you're using your screw cutters and you getting the bits off, you can go really nice and slowly, gently, get a nice clean shave, cut. It's not going to go pinging off anywhere, but it still seems to be good enough for them to mold in some really good but resilient detail. So I think that new slightly brownish grey thing that Airfix are using seems to be similar to that. I put that in second place. But I like the formulation ICM are using at the moment. It seems quite stable. Doesn't seem to be have any heat issues. I don't know. It seems good. I don't like this sort of almost like Gundam sort of stuff, which is really hard. I can't get on with that at all. I made some Star Wars things a couple of years ago, and it's beautiful, and it fits perfectly because that plastic ain't going anywhere. That is staying exactly true forevermore. But as you say, I find it more difficult to get the fine finish on bits where you're cleaning up, because the plastic is so good and so clean that you sanding it ruins it in a way. And you've got to touch the thing. And I've got to clean it up a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. And I don't know, it just seems a bit too much effort for me. And bits do go pinging unless you're really careful with them, and you never see them again.
I've always found Japanese companies, to me, aside, tend to be on the harder side, like Hasegawa. Hasegawa,
Fujimi
aircraft kits seem to be, not quite brittle, but hard. Which is nice when it's good, but when it's not, it makes it a pain. Right? I guess a bit like the Tacom stuff, right?
Yeah.
So is Tacom hard as well as dense, or is it just?
Yeah, it's really dense, probably the densest plastic. And I agree on the Japanese. So the Hasegawa and Fujimi plastic, it's when you're cleaning it up, it's you've got that little nub that even with a single blade nipper, you gotta I have to agree. The ICM plastic, I like it. It's soft, and so when you're and the Airfix, the new Airfix plastic is great, and to me a plastic as well. So I put them all in the same category. When you're cleaning it up, it's for me, it's just that right blend where it doesn't take forever, and you can clean it up with sort of a few strokes, and it doesn't ruin the profile, right? So if you're cleaning, you're going to have when you go to mate especially a fuselage, you got to be really careful.
Yeah,
you're going to end up with a gap, and I don't find that. I think ICM mini art for me, Border Models, Hobby Boss for me cleaned up really well. it's good plastic. ICM has good plastic, and I think so does Airfix.
Yeah, there's only, I mean, I think if you think about the old Airfix plastic and like old Revell plastic
Yeah,
and Hella plastic and things like AMT, you know, the traditional AMT MPC kits,
it's the worst.
hard, brittle, like snaps into jagged pieces, you know, just nasty stuff. I mean, we're so lucky, really, now, aren't we? Compared to,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it always used to be Tamiya was like the gold standard, and it kind of still is. Tamiya is a little bit harder, but not terribly so.
Yeah.
It's kind of on that spectrum. Is I put probably ICM in the middle, Tamiya on the slightly hard side, and Airfix on the slightly softer side. But all, you know, compared to the old stuff, I mean, they're all 10s compared to whatever 2 or something that they were. But
AMT and PMC and in the American car, plastic is
well, that
the older stuff.
not just the American, was that that Entai kit, the Corvair that I'm doing. Oh my god, that's challenging plastic as well. And that's Japanese originally, but again, you know, we said about the hard stuff, and that's an old Japanese kit, so
That's got to be really dense.
Well, I did, and thank you, John, for that. Yeah, really useful box company. That's the name of them. Yeah. So, I'm not quite losing my mind there. Before I go, Alex just bought Moss's book. Should be here Friday. I'll let you all know what I think Monday on Airfix and Chill.
Nice.
Cool. I mean, I already know what his book's like, so I read his Substack. So, so that's me saying that I'm going to be a cheapskate and not buy it. You see. Edward is great for scribing and riveting. I mean, hopefully you don't need to, right?
So it holds. It's just dense enough that it'll hold. That is definitely a weakness of mine, especially with cars. And I think I've got the tools. I just don't have the skill to rescribe panel lines on almost anything. I don't know why I just can't. I can't seem to not master, but even get really good at rescribing lines with even the tools I have. It's a weakness of mine. Yeah.
I think it's one of the things I always find is scribing is, I mean, if you've got a couple of decent tools, scribing is not actually that hard. But if you get it wrong, trying to correct that is a pain in the ass, because the tool does not want to follow the line that you want it to. It wants to go where you've made the mistake. Yeah. And then it's that question of, well, what do I do about that line? Is it enough that I can just kind of smooch it out, you know, or do I have to properly sound it or fill it? And then it's like, I'm making so much work for myself here.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. Well, just a comment from Dandy. Really enjoyed listening to this, chaps. Many thanks for the welcome and info. We'll be sure to join the next one. Got to duck. Night church is coming up, and it's a long night. Well, take care on your night shift. Thanks for dropping in, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
See you next week.
Good to see you.
John has a question which I'd be interested to know. Have any of you used ultrasonic cutters? Very expensive, but I've never used one. No.
Never used them.
I think the problem is that, I mean, the sprue cutters that you can get now, I mean, these are the ones I got off Temu, right? $11.99 from a company called Ruitool, which are a Japanese company. They are specifically made for models. They're single-bladed nippers, £12, like $14.
Like these as well.
Yeah, they're really good.
Oh my gosh,
they're brilliant.
They cut beautifully. So when you got something like that, which does the job really well, they're not quite as nice as, you know, I got some higher end ones, like the Display ones, are about 40, which are just beautiful. It's like, anything, it feels like you're cutting through butter, but they're quite delicate. So I only use them for certain things. But why would you use like a really expensive tool when this does a really, really good job?
Definitely.
So I think that's the issue. What else does it bring to the game? I think that's why you don't see them being used. It's funny actually, because it was something that my girlfriend Maria showed me a while ago. She said, "Oh, you'd like one of those?" I think it was on a Kickstarter or it was on a video or something. And I'm just like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And we saw the price, and she's like, "Nah." Yeah, that's cool. If someone gives me one, fine, but no.
Yeah.
Okay. A few people having to duck out. Michael Myers, good talking to you. See you all Monday. Pavel, sorry, I said it's soft enough to crack, but hard enough to retain the shape. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Edward. Okay.
Yeah. Strangely enough, so when I did the test for what's the best model company in the world, and I did the test on the plastic. So I got a hardness tester, tested all the plastic. I did bending tests on it. See, I could not break, and this shows the differences between the different plastics, right? I couldn't break the Airfix plastic by bending it back on itself.
Wow.
It just bent. It didn't matter how many times, and I did through like a full 180 back.
Wow.
And basically I did that with all, so I took the same sort of standard 3mm or whatever it is diameter sprue, did the same for each one. I think the Revell one didn't even get to it. It just broke like about 40 degrees or something. It was really surprisingly brittle. But the Airfix one, bend it back, and most of them, would go back once, and then I bent it the other way.
Oh, crap.
And they would go. So the stress, obviously, on one side and broke. The Airfix one, no, just bent, just became quite pliable, and it's like, okay, wonder why. I'd love to know the science behind it. My science brain. What else they put in there? What cross-linker or just the density of it? I don't know what it is, but from the ICM plastic to Tamiya to Airfix, which are all quite similar to use, having quite different properties, physically, just weird, strange. Oh, Ian says those nippers are now $9.59. I was robbed.
Holy smokes!
Wow.
It's like
I didn't pay for them, so I wasn't really robbed. That's one of the fringe benefits of YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah.
Righty-ho. Well, I think we are coming up to the 2-hour mark. I have spent only 10 minutes with my girlfriend this evening, so we ended it slightly early here. But it has been a pleasure. Thank you, Gary, for coming on. Thank you, John Alec.
Always.
Thank you both.
And thank you, everybody, for coming in and asking so many questions and putting so many comments in. It's been a great chat this evening. Great comments from everybody. So really glad to have the engagement. Great to see you guys. I hope to see you at the next one. And good night from all of us. Cheers now.
Bye, everyone.